Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Ayodelefa. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. For a returning subscriber, you know I love you, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for always coming back. Okay, so really, if you're a returning subscriber, if this is your first time watching, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for your lovely comments you're always leaving. Thank you guys so much for the beautiful, comments and you guys liking, you guys watching. It means so much to me. Thank you so much. So you guys know, I think I took a break from this a while ago, so I usually pick some of my top commenters, right, and say shout out to them. All right, so today's shout out is to Freeman Hall. Yes, I think I pronounced it. Yes, Freeman Hall. Now I particularly like him because most people tend not to understand his comments in the comment section, but most times, if you're able to like settle down and read, you would understand what he's trying to pass across rather. And I always love, like, there's hardly any video, and funny enough, I know the very day he started commenting on my video, and since that day till now, there's been no day that he hasn't left a comment. So thank you so much, Freeman. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so let us get right into it. So last time we spoke, I was giving you some dating tips that would help you out in your relationship. Dating tips you should be aware of, especially in this whatever century that we are in. Let me zoom this in a bit. All right, so once again, I apologize for the quality of the last video. I didn't see the quality because of my eyesight. I really need to change my glasses. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for still sticking around and still watching. Okay, so from the last video we did, I was giving you guys some tips that will be really helpful for you in your relationship, in your dating. Remember, this is for those that are dating, not necessarily courting. This is for those that have, they're just dating, they're just starting a relationship, and yeah. So last week we talked about not every relationship will lead to marriage, in as much as we want, especially as Christians. We are dating intentionally, and the idea is that for it to lead to marriage. The reality is that not every relationship you end up in will lead to marriage, and you need to first of all understand that, so that you don't put so much pressure on yourself and on the person that you're dating, right? And then the second thing I talked about is that there will always be someone better looking, someone hotter, someone finer or whatever than your current partner. Yes, let your eyes be one. That's what I always give to people, the advice I always give. Being in love is not a feeling, it's a decision. You are choosing this person in spite of the fact that there will be other people who will have better character or better looking or look hotter or sexier than the person, but you choose to build a life with the person. That is what love really is. Love is not a feeling, okay? And I cannot keep saying this. I cannot overemphasize this, that love is not a feeling. So don't base it based on how you're feeling, because feeling can let you down. You can be feeling good today, feeling it today, and not feeling it tomorrow. So you need to find someone that is worth you deciding that I want to get to know you. I want to build a life with you, right? And this third thing I talked about is compatibility takes time. Compatibility takes time, and this is especially for Christians who, when you see the guy, you're always asking, are you free? Can you pray from morning to night? Can you pray 8 hours? Can you fast for 3 days? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because you are in that level of spirituality, right? Sometimes the guy might need time, right? And sometimes it's not even about the spiritual side. It can be about character-wise, right? I'm not saying you should go and date an abuser. I'm not saying you should go and date someone who lacks respect or does not love or honor you or does not love or honor God, right? As long as he has the basic qualities. Sometimes there are things that you think that he needs for you guys to be more compatible, but the more you date, the more you get you date, the more you become compatible. I talked about my husband in the last video we did, about how I thought I wanted a man who was spiritually like above me, and when I met my husband, he wasn't there, right? But it's not the case now, you understand? But the more we dated, the more we went into the relationship, the more I saw the good in him, right? So don't, because maybe, and I remember there was a time my husband made a statement when we just started dating. Literally just asked me out yesterday, and today we started dating, and we're talking about a church, and he said something that really I'm like, I can't believe you're a Christian and you think this way, right? But he doesn't think the same way now, or he didn't even think it before we got married, right? Because we grow as humans, right? We grow spiritually, we grow psychologically, we grow physically, and all of that, right? And let even give myself an as an example. You know, physically, I'm not the, you know, I was not the princess that I am now. You know, the fine, sexy, lovely, sweet, beautiful princess, right? Before I got married, you know, you guys have seen, I think I've showed, you guys go and watch the video where I talked about body shaming. I showed a picture of who I used to be or how I used to look before I got married, right? So we all grow, we all, you know, we grow in every aspect, right? So compatibility sometimes takes time, but there are certain key things that should be, and I explained that in the last video. So if you missed watching the last video, please go back and watch that video, okay? All right, the next thing I talked about is the person you think is what you want is probably not good for you. Yes, the person you think is the ideal man. And I'm saying this because many of us, the image that we have as the ideal person is influenced by what we have seen, and it's just normal that as humans, the decisions we make, they are influenced by the environment that we live in, right? You're an African, or I am an African. I was brought up in a Christian home. I was brought up with certain values, and obviously that would affect the decisions that I make going forward in all of my life. Okay, I went to school. I don't think I ever entered a club ever throughout my school, throughout my university. I don't think I've ever entered till now, right? I've always known to be in church and all of that because that is how I was brought up. So every of my decision making has been like that. It is different from someone who is brought up maybe here now in the Western world where, you know, everybody is, you know, right? That person might be more exposed to things that I was not exposed to. It doesn't mean that, you know, anyone is better than anyone. It's just that sometimes the environment we grow up in influences us, and it also influences the kind of person we decide or we think we need to get married to. Okay, so social media, for instance, many of us, almost all of us are. If you're not on social media, I don't know what you're doing here. If you're on YouTube, YouTube is a form of social media. But anyways, we get exposed to things. We see our ideal celebrities and their husband, and you think, okay, this is the kind of person I want to get married to. We watch movies and we say, oh, you see the fine guy, guys. The people I had crushes on when I was younger, right? You see them and you say, okay, this is the kind of ideal person. This is, and you know, social media sells you the ideal man. They sell you how we should look: 6 packs, tall, dark, handsome. I don't even know where tall, dark, and handsome came from. I'm sure it came from somewhere, but before you know what is happening, everybody started to look at that as the ideal person, and then you think that that's the kind of man you need, that's the kind of man that can make you happy. But then you see him in that package, but the content inside of him is nothing to write home about, and many people ignore the content because of what the packaging looks like. Excuse me. So you ignore the content inside of him because of what the packaging looks like. So you see a guy that abuses you, a guy that disrespects you, a guy that doesn't love God, that doesn't honor God, that literally, you know, doesn't like you basically. And you see a lot of ladies and saying that this is where I'm going to die, because to them they feel like if I leave him, I will not find someone as good as he is. And when you ask them what the definition of good is good looking, right, and all of that. And sometimes it's not even about the looks. Sometimes about character wise, right? Sometimes we feel like because I am an extrovert, I need a guy that can match my energy, right? I like to go out. I want a guy that will be, you know, comfortable with me going out, and you know, we'll be able to go out together and stuff like that. But then you start dating, and you know, especially when you get into marriage and you realize that, oh my God, right? Imagine if all of you're always going out. Who's going to take care of the house? Who's going to take care of the kids? You end up spending all your money with going, especially if you're in Nigeria, and going for one party to another, buying a shobi, and you never have enough savings. Sometimes you need balance, right? But to be honest, I don't want a person that wants to kill my joy, right? Because that's how we see it. When the person does not match who we are, we say this person is the killjoy and stuff like that. But you know, sometimes it's not the case, right? Sometimes we think that if we find, and sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you think that, you know, because I am out there, I need a man that is cool down. Because see, to be honest, at the end of the day, you have to make your decision based on God. That's it, right? Know who God is leading you to, but also know that, you know, you need to be open. Sometimes when you get to know a person, realize that the things you think you need, you don't necessarily need them. Before I got married, I had the ideal person in my head, right? But when I met my husband, he didn't check those boxes, but there were boxes that my husband checked that I didn't even know I needed, right? So be open-minded. Be open-minded. Don't turn people down because of how they look or because of what their bank account is now and stuff like that. sometimes what you think you need, and you know, sometimes you might think you need a rich man, right? And you know, you end up dating someone that is not so financially well, and you realize that that brings out something in you that you didn't even know is there. It brings out the supportive side of you, or it makes you even want to, you know, put in more into your work and stuff like that. You know, you never can tell. So sometimes what you think you need is not what you need. It's not good for you. Okay, so yeah, don't I remember I said something in the last video that many are the plans of man, but the will of God is what is going to come to pass. So it is good. The Bible did not say don't have plans, okay? That's why I said many are the plans. So God is expecting you to have plans, okay? So have your plans, but hold it lightly, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's God's will. And one thing that I always know, as long as your plan, you know, is based on the word, is based on, you know, what God is saying, right? It kind of God still gives you a bit of what you want, but you might not get everything that you wanted. Okay, I want to give an example, but I don't think I will have the time, or else to be like the last one, I couldn't go through the whole 10. Right, the example I was going to give was, you know, there are certain things God had revealed to me about my husband when I was growing up, right? Like, for instance, I knew where he would live, right? I knew certain things about him that then it didn't make sense to me when God was telling me. It was just like it didn't make sense to me, right? But when I met him, God started to put things together to see, oh, this is what God was saying at the time, right? So that's why I always say, learn to hear God before you start to seek for who to marry, because then you wouldn't know if it's you or if it's God, because you're not used to his voice. Okay, all right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the stop ignoring red flags. Yes. Okay, stop ignoring red flags in your relationship. When see, I'm not saying that you break up with your person you're dating because of every red flag. There are certain red flags that you see and you flee. Okay, if it's an adulterous person, it's a person that sleeps around. Okay, let's even say you forgive him the first time, because I always say there's nobody that cannot change. Maybe he made a mistake the first time and you forgive him and he goes back to, in short, if he I always tell people, if you cheat on you once, okay, run. But now I always say, I don't know why, but I think I've just gotten to that place where you realize that, see, yeah, anyways, let's not get into cheating yet. Okay, just follow your heart. If you cheat on you, and you know, my dear, anyways, don't ignore red flag. Don't ignore red flags, right? When he starts to show you he's an abuser, it talks down on you, it compares you to people, it makes you feel less, right? Whenever you're with him, you feel insecure about yourself, it brings out the worst in you and stuff like that. When you start to see that sign, those are things that you should flee away from, right? It makes you unrest. You don't trust him because he's a liar. You can never say this, you should meet it like that, and it happens over and over again, right? Yeah, like I was saying, sometimes it might be a mistake once, right? I remember the first day, you know, my husband knows something about me that I do not like. Don't lie to me. Whatever you do, don't lie, because it's hard for me. Okay, I need to be able to trust you, and that's why no matter what I do, I may not come out right at that minute, but trust me, it won't take days before I let you know that, listen, this thing has happened and all of that, because I don't want to be caught in a lie, and it's something that I do not tolerate, right? And I remember there was one particular instance where my husband did not tell me something. He didn't lie about it, but he didn't tell me because of, you know, for his own reasons, right? And you know, I found out about it, and it was crazy. Like, to me, that's a big red flag for me, like, you know. And eventually, like, he opened up to me and he told me why he couldn't tell me, and we moved past that, and since then it didn't repeat itself again, right? So when you see that this is a habit for him, he lies, he cheats, he does stuff like that, all those red flags, please, I'm begging you, flee. Okay, yeah. So when you see the red flags, please don't ignore it. Okay, when he looks down on you, he talks down on you in your marriage, or he tells you stuff like, I will slap you, who is your age mate, do you know who you're talking to, you don't even have respect and stuff like that, but he hasn't hit you. Trust me, when you get married, he will hit you. Okay, so when you start to see those signs, please don't ignore them. Don't ignore them. Sometimes does not mean that you should leave him, especially if they are not extreme red flags. Sometimes it's talk about it. Okay, don't assume that when you get married things are going to get better. Talk about it. Let him know that this attitude cannot be tolerated, because the fact is, the more you date, remember, you're two people from different backgrounds, different ideologies and stuff like that. There are certain things that, you know, he would do that will not be acceptable to you, and there are certain things that he would do that you would do that will not be acceptable to him. I just wanted to make sure this thing, Yes, because remember, you're from different backgrounds, you have different ideologies about things and life and all of that. So sometimes there'll be things that he doesn't consider an issue, but you would consider it an issue, right? And you have to call him out and listen and say, hey, this attitude cannot be tolerated. You have to do something about it, right? So please do not ignore red flags. When you see them, please talk about it. Okay, I remember one of the red flags that I had when I was dating my husband then was I cannot be with somebody that, you know, well, that used to be a red flag because you guys might think this is extreme, but I just believe that when you have a place that you worship, you should be able to, you know, be a worker. My own ideology is I cannot be in my father's house and just be sitting down and not do anything, right? Even though that's what I'm doing now. But that was it for me, okay? And when I met my husband, I was like, you don't work in your church, what's going on? And I would talk and talk and talk. My husband would say he's still praying about it. My husband did not work in this church till we got married, and eventually he did, like 6 months after we got married, or even a year after we got married. He eventually took up, you know, and stuff like that. But those are things that were so personal to me, especially as a believer. I wanted someone that was a worker, someone that was, you know, working in the house of God. But when I was praying about it, God was asking me, is he a Christian? Does he love God? Does he honor God? Does he pray? And all of that. Then let him get to his spiritual maturity as time goes on. Remember what we said initially, that compatibility takes time sometimes. So that was like, yeah, so that was something I had to let go, and eventually he became that person, right? So it's not every red flag you leave your partner for, right? You need to also put your red flags in, you know, is this something we need to talk about, or is this something I need to run away from, right? Like if he abuses you, or, you know, yeah. Anyways, the next thing I talked about is your background might be a problem. Or what I said here is your background might be what is stopping you, especially if you found yourself moving from one partner to the other, one boyfriend to the other, and you've not really found the person that is good enough for you. Oh, the battery is going off, I need to change. All right, that your background might be what is stopping you. Now, this is something that would, you know, I was saying that especially if you found yourself, you know, from being from one relationship to the other, and you've still not found the person that you're, you know, the perfect man for you, and you feel like every guy is not just right for you. Sometimes you need to look within and find out what is the reason, what is in me that is not making my relationship to last. Because what we don't know, many of us, we are carrying a lot of baggages from our parents, you know, marriage or lack of it. Okay, maybe you're from a broken home, you didn't have a father growing up and stuff like that. For me, throughout my teenage years to being an adult, I didn't have a father in the house. So I had a mother who was both the mother and father figure in my family. So when I got into a relationship, I found out that, you know, I was a bit controlling, right? You understand? So anyways, it took me a while for me to understand that it's because of the kind of background I came from. Sometimes it also informs the kind of guys you go for, right? Sometimes if you're from a broken home, you might find yourself going for guys who are you know, relaxed, who are not driven and all of that, because you are a kind of person that likes to fix people and likes to fix things because you've seen your mother doing that growing up, right? One other thing that I mentioned, you know, I think I mentioned in one of my videos was, I used to get upset with my husband then, even my fiance, and even after we got married, you know, whenever, you know, I cannot reach him, right? I'm always afraid that something has gone wrong. I always overthink things, right? And I realized that I actually got that from, you know, my mom, right? So sometimes you don't know, but your background might be the reason why you're not moving forward in your dating relationship. It might be the reason why sometimes you're projecting your dad's action. And I know I did that also. Yeah, I did that when we were dating a lot. Like oh my god, I did that. I remember a particular argument I had with my fiance or boyfriend then when I was in Ghana, and he said, I remember that night, I can't remember what happened, but I know he said something, and you know, I lashed out at him and I said, you know, I said something about, anyways, see, sometimes it is your upbringing that is affecting you. Sometimes the reason why you are too extra, or you're giving too much, or you're giving only little, or you are afraid of commitment, is because of where you're coming from. So you need to check yourself and check the patterns. What is the pattern on my upbringing that is keeping me from moving forward in my relationship? So you need to check it. Sometimes ask yourself, how was my parents' life? How was it for me growing up? What is my mindset? You know, that will really help you, especially if people have jilted you so much. Sometimes you have trust issues and your husband is telling you A and you're saying no, it is B, and all of that. So you need to check yourself and ask yourself, you know, what's in my background, what is in my lineage on my family that might be affecting me in my relationship. Okay, all right, the next thing that I have here is Your parents won't be in the marriage with you, okay? And I've said this a lot. I actually had, if you're not following me on Instagram, you're wrong. My name on Instagram is victoria.a.fash, okay? So follow my Instagram page, okay? Someone asked me a question, I was answering it in my stories, and she was talking about her parents that didn't want her to marry a guy. See, always know this: your parents will not be the one to be in the marriage with you. They can have an opinion, but you are under no obligation to go with their opinion, right? Because again, they are not the one that will marry the man for you. So if you end up being with a person that your parents like but you don't, you will end up suffering, because your parents will leave you in this life and they will go to heaven, and you'll be the one to suffer, and then your kids after you might end up passing that to the kids after you and all of that. So please be careful. Let us be mindful when choosing the partner. If your parent does not agree, right, and that is very, very important to you, then look for ways to make them agree, okay? Like, talking, selling the person. And I always say this: before you bring your partner, whether they will agree or not, before you bring your partner to your parents, sell your partner to them. Give them an idea of who he is, sell the good part of him, help them to fall in love with him before they eventually meet him, because it makes it easier, okay? So yeah, your parents are talking about, you're talking about something. My husband is calling. Baby boy. Okay, where were we? All right, so where were we really? Yes. So yes, your parents, you're talking about something with your parents or your dad or mom or whatever, and you say, oh, this is what my husband used to say, or this is what my this is what this guy used to say, this is what this girl used to say. Sell the person before they eventually meet the person, because it makes it easier, right? And then pray. There's nothing prayer cannot do to be able. The Bible says that the hearts of kings are in the hand of God, and it turns it however it wants, okay? So pray about it, okay? Yeah, but please don't make a decision based on your parents' preference. They will, and see, especially if you're in Africa, they will always play the manipulative trick on you. What a old man can see sitting there, a young girl cannot see going up. And I told my mom then, like, see, I'm not whoever God, I know I love you, I know you have good plans for me, and I know you want what's best for me, but I know that you can definitely not want, you can definitely not want better. You cannot love me more than God does, okay? So there is absolutely no way you can love me more than God does. So if God is agreeing with this, then let us go with it, okay? So anyways, please don't make that mistake. I've seen a lot of people get into marriage because their parents said so, and it didn't end up really well. Okay, all right, some of your friends will get married before you. And it is okay. It is not about how far, but how well. Yes, that is another tip for you to know, especially if you're single and you have a lot of friends who are getting married. It's just normal. You guys will not get married at the same time. I was the first among my friends to get married, right? And I know my other friends, they will still get married. Some are getting married, right? So please know that. Don't, because of that, put pressure on the person that you're dating, or put pressure on yourself, right? Everybody is, my mom, one advice my mom gave me that I would never forget. She told me, Mafia Gwalago Shishe, don't work with someone else's time. We all have different times in life, okay? The Bible says that for everything under the sun, there is a time and there is a season for everything under the sun, okay? And we are under the sun for each person. God has a time. The Bible says that I knew you, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. God knows his plan for you, and he knows his time for you, okay? So don't, because, and this actually appeals to every other part of life, not just in dating or in relationship or in marriage, right? In every other aspect. Don't do things because you think that you are in a hurry, and your other people are doing it, and your friends are getting married and stuff. Have it as reality that some of your friends will get married before you, and it's okay. It's not by who first reach there. marriage is not about who first go, okay? It's about how well, okay? So it's not about who get there first. It's about it's about how well and how right is the person, and if it's the right time and the right person. If you find the right person, trust me, we are all celebrating Richard Dominic. Richard Dominic is a Nigerian actress, right? So many actresses have gotten married before her. So many actresses have gotten divorced before she eventually got married, but she found the right person in her 40s, and everybody's literally happy for this lady. You understand that? So please don't say because your friends are doing it, I have to do it. We've seen a lot of celebrities, right? I don't want to mention their names, but you know them, right? That did that because of pressure. I remember when Funke Akindele broke up with her first husband, she came out to say it was just because of the pressure. Everyone was doing it, people were putting pressure on her, and she decided to do it, right? It was the big wedding and everything. And don't see, it is not about the wedding, it's about the marriage, okay? So they have the big weddings and everything. At the end of the day, it's still ending breakfast or divorce and stuff like that. So you don't want to do that, okay? So please just know that people will get married before you, and even if you're married, people will have kids before you and stuff like that. It's not about how quick, it's how well. All right. You might not be in love with your partner or actually you will not be in love with your partner every time or be sexually attracted. Yes, that's the last point I have here. No this and no peace. Okay. You will not be sexually attracted to your partner every time, and it's the fact. There are days that you will be, there are days that you will not be. You will not see your partner every time feel like tearing up their clothes, and there are times that you see him and you won't even feel. You should be asking yourself like, what kind of decision, why did I decide to be with this person? You understand that? So that is just a reality. You won't be sexually attracted to him, you will not be physically attracted to him, you will not be in love, in the feeling, talking about the worldly definition of in love. You won't feel that towards him every time. But again, remember, love is not a feeling, love is a decision. You choose to be with this person forever, right? So yeah, that's it guys. That's all I have to say in this video. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any question. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. Yeah, that's it guys. Let me know what you guys think. Please remember to like this video, to share, to leave a comment. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, my name is Victoria Ayadele Bash. Have an amazing week. Okay, bye.